My name is Brian Jones, and this is my testimony.
So, Brian, who is Jesus Christ to you?
Lord and Savior. My Lord and Savior.
And let me know, like, when did that happen for you?
It happened, as a child, and just, growing up in the church, and I had my baptism. I want to say I was about 13 or 14, so that's when it all started for me. So,
Man, we all kind of like grew up in the church. Then we started finding a different route. Was there a time when you started drifting away from the church?
oh yeah, for sure, man. Like, shortly after, I got out of high school and stuff like that, just was, believed in God, but really hadn't really gone through anything, and still trying to find yourself, being a teenager in that spot, you're kind of going through the motions, but, not really having gone through much in life, I started straying down a different path, once I got out of high school, so.
Let's talk about that different path. Like, what was your mindset around graduating from high school? For me personally, like, man, I think I was in the church, but we was in 6th grade and we was already going down a different path.
Yep.
We was on other time, but for you, like, mentally, what was going on around that time?
Mentally, like you said, I feel like we're, coming from where we come from, it was always right there because, coming from the city we come from. And so we were always, fantasizing about it and, dibbling and dabbling, what have you, with, just, street life and, the gang culture and stuff, that's kind of part of, it's a fabric of where we come from. So, after high school, just, I went to college for a little bit, but just not really knowing who I was and still trying to learn who I was. So, around, I was 20, I'll say probably about 18, 19, I was already doing stuff, man, like running around, like, committing little petty crimes and stuff like that. But, when at 23, the whole thing just kind of came to a head. It went all the way down path, and I was charged with capital murder. When I was 23 years old, so that's when it really just hit a low, hit a valley, man. So,
Man, they say a warning always come before disaster. For you, was there times before you were charged with capital murder that you was getting warning signs?
Most definitely, man. I mean, having close calls and in certain situations when, we was, doing, the crazy stuff we was doing in the streets, it was always close calls and just really didn't heed to the warning, man. And even my mother didn't just heard the wisdom, that God gave her, just knew that something was going on and not right with me. She couldn't even put her finger on it, but that was the ultimate, like, indicator right there, of warning before destruction.
So take me to that day, man. All this stuff is going on. They come and arrest you. They come and get you. What's your mindset?
Like, Lord, I don't. In my mind, I'm like, Lord, like, I don't know what's, like what's going, like you've been trying to, I've been getting warned, and I was just like, Lord, like what's going on? Like, I should have seen it coming, but it was like, I'm praying to God, like, man, like what now? I don't know what to do, just things, just that day I was at my job, and this is how things catch up with you, like, so I had, was doing them things, but then I had got a really good job at that time, and then it all came back and they arrested me at my job, and it was high profile, like it was all over our area, and just I was like, okay, God, like you got me now, like I don't know, I don't know what to do, man. I was in a nervous wreck, so it was crazy.
What they when I remember they set I had a aggravating. They set my bond to like $750,000. What they set your bond to?
Well, even through all of that, I'm gonna say before I say that is God was working in the midst, because my bond was only $150,000, and I was charged with capital murder. So that's pretty much kind of unheard of to have such a low bond, with that type of charge. You can't get any. That charge is the worst charge. You can't get no. So God had already started working through the midst of my mistakes and my trespasses and stuff like that.
So okay, now take me to that day. Like they come and get you. Are they taking you to an interrogation room? Or they've already arrested you and you head to the county?
Well, what they did was like they kind of did like a crowd control type thing. I was sitting in the office building, and they called I guess law enforcement called, and they had me come outside the building, and they pulled an operation like somebody had broken into my car and whatnot. So I went out there. I was like, oh man. So so that's how they get me to go out there. And then as I got to the parking lot, like they and I walked to my car and see nothing was wrong with my car. They arrested me right there. Told me I was under arrest, and like everything went down. It was like Texas Rangers. It wasn't any uniform officers, but it was Texas Rangers and the Fugitive Task Force.
Take me through the rest of that.
Yeah, it was so they put me in handcuffs, told me that they was finna take me downtown, took my phone and all of that stuff, and they put me in an unmarked car, and we went to the county, went down to Tarrant County, went through to interrogation, like the whole first 48. If you ever see first 48, the whole get out. I had seen it, I don't know how many times, but it was exactly like that. It took me downtown, interrogation room, the whole bit, and so like I eventually, I was charged with capital murder, man. They interrogated me, and and they wound up, charging me with, capital murder,
So I believe you had co-defendants, because I want to say that's what either you told me or I read. It's one of the two. But were you in a situation where they came and got all y'all on the same day? Were y'all all like kind of the first one to tell? Like how was that going?
Well, what happened was one of my co-defendants. This is how actually, like, when it all came out, how I got swooped into it was the situation happened like 2 or 3 months prior, and one of my co-defendants, which unbeknownst to me, he had a probation violation. So he went in first. So when he went in, he pretty much, gave me and my other co-defendant up. So that's pretty much, he told them that, I was involved and all of that. So that's what happened. So that's what led them to me. Because prior to all of that, I didn't, I was doing stuff, but I wasn't in trouble with the law. I had never gotten in trouble with law enforcement or anything like that. So that was the only thing that could have happened was, he pretty much, told law enforcement that I had something, I was involved with what happened. So
they start going through the evidence on you and telling you this stuff. Like you looking at it, it's starting to get overwhelming. How are you reacting? Because in the back of my mind, I'm upset with him, but I'm also not knowing how to comprehend getting out the situation I'm in right now.
Right. It was just like, I had to keep a straight face, but it was like, it was unbelievable, man. Like it felt like a movie. Like I come in, and they just start dropping evidence, like so and so said you was, and so and so. They just start laying it out. So I'm like, wow, like is this really real right now? Like, am I being punked or something? You know what I'm saying? Because that's so. I mean, but the smartest thing like I could have done was just just say, hey man, I don't know what's going on, but but it was to the point to where it was already, he had made up whatever he said, so that's what they ran with, man. But yeah, in that moment, I'm like, wow, like, so this is gonna be it. So when they said I was charged with what I was charged with, I was like, man, like my life finna be over with.
Right?
That was it.
Did you start mentally like? Most people have a mental breakdown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially because it would be so like you're so underprepared for what just happened, and it's all happening at once. Like, you hearing what you get charged with, and at that moment, like, are you praying? Are you like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I am. I'm like, talking to God, like saying, God, like, if you can please just give me one more chance to, like, because at this point I'm feeling like my life is over with. Like, it's done. Like, so at this point throughout the whole process, I'm like, Lord, if you can just give me one more opportunity, at life to get my stuff together, then, I'll give you all the praise and all the glory, So I'm there. I'm just constantly like just praying throughout the whole process, man. So
did anything since when you started praying for that, did anything go in your favor?
It did. I was, after 7 months of sitting in the county jail, I was blessed to bond out. I bonded out on a capital murder charge, like on $150,000 bond, and like you said, the bond was the first blessing. Then, God made a way financially for me to get out, and be bonded out. And I stayed out on bond for 2.5 years.
I knew that sounded right because I talked to you during that time, because I remember I wanted to try to get my lawyer to you, or just give you some of the stuff that, you know what I'm saying, situations, because I was dealing with some of that same stuff. Okay, so they left me out for like 2 years too before. So did you go to trial?
I didn't go to trial. Like, I signed like a plea agreement, which I probably shouldn't have done, just not understanding like, the law and stuff like that. But yeah, I signed a plea agreement, and but like I said, God worked in a way to where when I bonded out, I wasn't on no ankle monitor or nothing. So like, that was a blessing too. Like, they let me out in the middle of downtown, like just out, man. And I didn't have to no ankle monitor, and stayed out 2.5 years. But yeah, I ended up reaching an agreement, like a plea agreement, and signing for 10 years. So they came down from the highest of the high, from life to death, life in prison or the death penalty, all the way down to 10-year sentence, Burley of habitation. So,
man, I'm not gonna lie to you. That sound like that was a blessing by itself. To anybody, you said you did the right thing. Anybody in their right mind would have took that plea agreement.
That's right.
Okay, so you signed the 10. 2.5 years go by, you end up signing the 10, you go in. Talk to me about the mindset now, because now you had 2.5 years to try to get your mind right for what you're about to go through.
Correct. Going in, man, it was just, I went through phases. It was like, unreal at first, and it was kind of like emotional, to where it's like, man, like, this is really happening. So it was kind of like disbelief, like, man, like, really, is this, and as time is going on, like, I'm having to mentally and emotionally, like, go through that stage of saying, hey, like, this is really happening. And through this whole process, like, man, just going to prison and just being in that environment, man, it's like, yeah, it's real, man. So like, once again, I'm steady praying, like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. I don't know But you know, just asking God to be with me, man, because yeah, it's real in there, man. Like it's unlike anything that you know you can imagine, man.
So now you got to do this time in this place that's savage, like, and to survive, you need to have a certain mentality. So, how do you stay locked in, prayed up, but also not come off as overly weak to these people?
You just, man, like you really just go in there and just, I would say, don't try to be something that you're not. Like, go in there and you know you have to like demand your. I mean, you demand your respect. Like you go in there and like you have to stand on, you know, principles. You know, morals and principles. I feel like what my mom taught me as a child, like my parents taught me as a child, like it really came into play because like throughout my life, it was like, you know, we learning, we in church and we learning about, you know, the word and stuff like that and how to go about things, but like without having really like being through like, so this situation I was prepared to go in and mentally, so everything I was taught, my parents taught me, and even with the word, like just going in, just demanding respect, not letting anybody, you know, treat you any type of way or do anything to you. So I went in with respect and demanded my respect in return. You know, so that's a lot of the things I was already raised up to do. It really came into effect once I got into that, into that circumstance. So that's what helped me, staying prayed up, being in the word, and because I wasn't raised like that, like I said, but my parents taught me a lot of things, and that's what got me through, man.
How was mom and them like handling this?
Oh man, it was rough, man, because like in the midst of like when all of that, when I was on bond, man, I ended up, being married to my first wife, and it was extremely emotional, like draining, man. It was emotionally, man, it was overbearing for them because I left my wife, my ex-wife, and she was 5 months pregnant with my first child, and my mom and just everybody, man, it was emotional, man. A lot of my people in my community, and they just was in disbelief, man. It was hard on a lot of people, and my family took it hard, man, really hard.
So when going in, like, were they there with you the whole 10? Did you have some time where you were just like, hey, let me isolate myself, let it just be me and God? Like, how was the growth throughout that 10 years?
The growth was, they were my rock, man. They were my rock. My family, they were my rock, man. They were the ones who, they rode with me the whole 10. Supported me mentally. You know what I'm saying? And they wrote it out with me, man. I don't think I could have made it without them, without God and my family, man. So they were there for me, man. Like, and that was it, cause in there, man, my wife left me, but like all I had was God in there, and I had the support of my family, man. But that was it. They wrote it all the way out with me.
Was there any times in there where you kind of questioned God or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I did, man. Especially in the beginning. Like I said, that was part of the phase that I went through. Like just questioning, wondering why. Like not understanding that I was destined. I allowed myself to stoop down and not live up to what God had for me. So, but in the beginning, it was those phases like God, why you let me go through this? Doubting God, questioning God, and just being ignorant to the fact of it was me that allowed myself to get into that, and and God was trying to show me, but I I wasn't listening. So I went through that, man. I questioned God a lot in the beginning.
And when did you just kind of just sit back and say, you know what, God, I'm gonna trust you?
It was, let's see, because I did 7 years and 4 months. Exactly. I want to say probably about after that third year, I'll say, no, it wasn't even the third year. I'll say after about that, I'm gonna say about 5th year. After the 5th year, man, like I said, you know what, God, like I'm gonna trust you, like, cause I think after those 4 years, like after the 5th year, I had came up for parole the first time.
I was just gonna ask that.
Yeah, I came up for parole the first time because it took 4 years and like 4 months for me to finally come up for parole. And then I got my first like they call it a set off or a next review where they set you back for another year, make you serve another year before you come up for review. So that's what happened. Like, so after that 5th year where I got that set off, I said, you know what, Lord, I'm just gonna put it in your hands. Hey, I'm gonna trust you, and and let that be that. And I feel like I finally let go of everything. Like I let go of the guilt that I had, and as far as the feelings that I had, the ill feelings that I had towards God and the questioning God. I let go, and I really did let God take over.
And when he took over, right? So did you feel any kind of peace when you gave that let go? And on top of that peace, so were you able to get out on your very first parole hearing?
Oh no, I didn't. That's after that first parole hearing when I didn't make it. That's like I said, that's when I let go and let God. But I didn't make my second one, and I finally got out on my third parole, which that put me. It had the enemy tried to like pull me down in that aspect, like because I didn't make the first one, I didn't make the second one, but I made the third one, and I had some challenges with that, and even with making the third one, it still took me a whole nother year because once I made it, the pandemic struck. Because I was released in 2020, so we were right in the midst of the pandemic, so I had another year delay. So had it not been for my mental shift and transition to have God in control, like that would have like completely just derailed me, because I seen a lot of other people who wasn't walking with God, they crashed out, man. They jumped off track. And then it was a lot of people during the pandemic who didn't, they no longer here. So that was a whole just in itself, by itself, the pandemic was crazy. So.
Was there any situations while you were in there where you found yourself praying for others because you also knew what you needed in return, what you could see as you saw people going through their situations, where you was just praying with somebody else?
Yes, most definitely, man. Like I started, being involved in the chaplaincy services and stuff like that, and joined it was a community outreach program where a man would come in and he would just kind of minister to us. And yes, I did. I started praying for others, started having prayer groups and prayer circles and stuff like that. And so yes, I did. Like because in that situation, man, like the they say the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. So yeah, it was definitely opportunities to do that, man.
So you get out on the third time. Tell me how life is going and how life was getting out.
It was different, man. Like it was, the whole culture shifted. Like, I know people who've done longer than that, but like that was enough to like, it was like the society was different, man. And it took me a while to like really get back adjusted, man, I want to say it took me at least about a year, man. I was like a fish out of water. So just having to readjust to I mean, I knew how to function in society, but just it was crazy about how things had changed, how different things were just in that time period that I was gone. But it took me a while, man, but I finally had to, I readjusted, but the world changed. So like, yeah, it was long enough to see that the changes, and then I had to, make those adjustments.
And man, a lot of people would have it hard just living after getting out of that, especially with a felony charge. We all know how difficult life gets once they label you as something. How has God blessed you and your livelihood to this day?
Man, it was rough as far as getting employment and stuff like that. But now, I went to truck driving school. God blessed me to go to truck driving school. I didn't pay not one cent. I didn't pay not 1 cent, and now I'm a owner operator for a couple of trucks of mine, like so now, man, yeah, he fully restored me even higher to where I was, prior to going through that season and that circumstance. So yeah, like, he blessed me, man. Like, I just continue to stay faithful, and now, yeah, I got a wife, a family, house, and he restored me, man. He, once I gave it to him, he restored me, man, better than I was prior to that.
So if you could go back to 14-year-old Brian, what would your advice be to yourself?
My advice to myself would be trust in who you are and what you capable of doing. Like, trust in reaching your full potential. Don't fall for the distractions, and just work hard to reach your full potential. And understand that there's pressure makes diamonds. And just always just believe in who you are and what God has in store for you. Because I believe that I had to go through my season because of not understanding, knowing it, but not understanding it. And that's what allowed me to go through that season. But I would tell the 14-year-old self to just believe in who you are, and don't believe in who God has intended for you to be, and not what you want to be, or what you think you want to be, or what you think is cool.
And lastly, man, let me ask you, what advice would you give to any of the youth that has an ear for it? Because we know these days they normally don't even have an ear for it, but the ones that do have an ear for it, and the ones just on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this at right now, what advice would you give them if they are struggling, or if they're going through a situation? They might be confused and running the houses. They could be doing anything. So what advice would you give a younger person right now, or anyone in general?
I would say reach out to someone, the best person that you feel like that is opposite of what you're doing or what you might be into. Reach out to that person, man. Reach out to any positivity that you can get, man. Grab it, hold on to it. Anybody that it don't have to be a family member or a friend. It's just someone that you feel like is doing better than doing better than you are, or that's doing the opposite of what you're doing, that is positive. And reach out to that person, man, and let them know what's going on. And not only that, like going to church, seeking God, go to where the positivity is. You have to fight yourself, because it's a battle. Because I understand where this younger generation is and what's going on, but you have to do that. You have to reach out. You have to let someone know, and not only just someone, but positive people. You have to run to that in this day and age, because it's easy to be negative in our society nowadays. You don't have to go far, so you have to strive for positivity, work hard, and reach out for positive people in your life, man.
Man, where can they find you? Because some people might hear your testimony, and some people might just want to be able to reach out. Where can they find you at?
You can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook, and that's BEE dot Jones, and or B Jones on Facebook, BEE JONES, and on Instagram is B dot Jones dot 86.
Man, I appreciate you, brother. Man, I appreciate you coming through. A lot of people, like I say, need to hear that story. A lot of people going through these things, and for me, I want people to hear stories and testimonies. So if you're listening to this right now, I hope it affected you in some kind of way. I appreciate you once again for even just coming through and being able to open up and tell your story.
It's an honor, man. Honor and a privilege. I appreciate it, man.
All right, man. We'll be getting back with y'all, and I'll be getting back with you, man. I'll see y'all later. God bless.